No one's coming to your party. Grow up. That's the message my mom dropped into the family group chat, on my birthday, no less. I read it twice, just to be sure I wasn't misunderstanding. Then I responded with a single word, understood. After that, I went straight to my banking app and shut off the automatic $2,400 rent payment I'd been sending them every month like clockwork. The next morning, I drove over to their place. I didn't even bother going inside. Just hit the button on the key fob, took the car they'd been using for the past couple of years, and left. Simple as that. Then I called the bank and closed every single credit card they had access to. Not out of spite. Not because I was feeling dramatic. I was just done playing the role of provider, of the reliable one, of the person they could always lean on without ever asking if I was okay with it. Their silence afterward wasn't confusion. It was shock. Heavy, stunned silence. The kind that hits when something ends for real, and you know it's not coming back. This wasn't some tantrum. It wasn't a bluff, either. It was the end. A door closing, and this time, it was locked. They never thought I'd actually do it. Figured I'd pout for a day or two, maybe send a passive-aggressive message, then get over it. Like always. But this wasn't just another moment. This was the moment. Because this wasn't the first slap in the face. It was the last one. It was the final sentence in a long, humiliating story where I wasn't treated like a son. I was a walking debit card. A convenient human ATM with a name and a face they barely acknowledged unless they needed something. I'm 28. I live in a small apartment down on the southwest side of Denver. I work in IT support for a healthcare software company. Nothing flashy, but it pays the bills and gives me peace. And for a while, I really believed we'd finally turned a corner. That the rough years were behind us. That maybe, just maybe, I'd done enough to earn my place back in the family. But they didn't want effort. They wanted silence. Gratitude. A quiet, obedient presence who smiled and paid the bills without asking for anything in return. They didn't want me in the room. They wanted me outside, grateful just to be near it. What really got me wasn't the message itself. It was how no one seemed to care. My Neil sent a heart emoji. My sister dropped a cake emoji. My dad chimed in with a meme, some clown with a caption that read, "Guess who's turning 12 again?" Not one person asked how I was doing. Not a single one said happy birthday. I sat there in the dark, holding my phone, rereading the thread. And the wildest part? I wasn't even hurt. Just stunned. Stunned that I'd let it drag on this long. I started paying their rent when I was 24. Not because I had money to burn. Not because they asked with kindness. But because they made it feel like I had no other choice. It's just temporary. You're the only one who's stable right now. We gave you everything. Now it's your turn. That temporary lasted 4 years. Month after month, I footed the bill, for rent, groceries, utilities, gas, Wi-Fi, repairs. I even covered the vet bill for their cat once. Not because I was trying to spoil anyone, but because if I didn't, I'd get guilt-tripped into it later anyway. And then there were the messages. The subtle little landmines dropped into the group chat. Power's about to get cut off again. Mom's back is acting up, we're not sure how we're going to move without help. Emily's car broke down. She really needs to get to work. Can you help her out? Yeah, that last one. Emily's car. I paid for it. She's still driving it. Still posting selfies in it. One of them had a caption. Thankful for people who truly support me. Didn't even tag me. Emily's my younger sister. She's 25. Unemployed. But somehow, she's always on vacation. My parents say she's just finding her way. Yeah, well, she's been finding her way through my checking account for years now. One time, I asked my dad why Emily never chipped in, why she never helped out at all. He looked at me and said, "She's not like you. She's not built for pressure. You are." That line never left me. Because they did build me for pressure. They made damn sure of it. But even pressure cracks when you keep piling on weight. Last Thanksgiving, I drove 5 hours to surprise them. Showed up with groceries, a pie, and a bottle of wine. I knocked on the door hoping, I don't know, for a warm welcome. Mom opened the door, blinked, and said, "Oh, you came." Then she yelled over her shoulder, "Emily, tell Josh to hide the gifts, your brother's here." I asked, "Who's Josh?" She laughed and said, "Emily's boyfriend. They've been staying here for a bit." Josh was living in my old room. I crashed on the couch. At dinner, my dad raised his glass and toasted, Here's to the man who pays the bills but can't hold down a girlfriend. Everybody laughed. Even Emily. Especially Emily. I didn't say a word. I just sipped my wine and helped clean up after dinner. I ended up covering the plumbing bill when their sink backed up. Because, hey, that's what family does, right? A couple of weeks later, I'm scrolling through my feed, and I see a photo of Emily and Josh grinning in front of some mountain cabin. The caption, family trip. I hadn't been invited. Hell, I didn't even know they went. I only found out because a coworker, someone I barely talked to outside of work, turned to me and asked, hey, wasn't that your sister on the Explore page? Looked like a pretty sweet vacation. So I checked. And there they were, Mom, Dad, Emily, and Josh. All smiling like a postcard ad. Matching beanies. Holding mugs like they were living in a Hallmark movie. And one of those mugs Emily was holding. It had this custom print, best daughter ever. While they were off living their cozy little lie, no one thought to send me a message. Not even a check-in. And the week they got back, guess what I got? Not a call. Not a text. I got an email from my landlord. Reminder, rent is due tomorrow. Turns out they'd skipped last month's transfer. Didn't bother telling me. I guess they figured I'd just notice and, like always, pick up the slack. So I did. I paid it. In full. Because that's who I am. But something in me started shifting. I wasn't going to forget it this time. And then things really started to unravel. One day, while I was working from home, my phone started buzzing non-stop. The family group chat was blowing up. For a second, I panicked, thought maybe someone had died. Nope. My dad had posted a screenshot of my Amazon birthday wishlist. Caption read, look at this grown man asking for socks and shampoo. LOL. Then he added, guess we didn't raise him tough enough, can't even buy his own lotion. My cousin Ashley chimed in, yikes. Uncle Mark tossed in a picture of toilet paper, here you go, champ. Emily. She dropped the cherry on top, he probably expects us to gift wrap this too. I just stared at the screen. Not because it hurt, but because it was so damn predictable. They weren't even trying to hide the cruelty anymore. They just assumed I'd take it. That I wouldn't clap back. That I never would. And I didn't. Not then. But I started documenting everything. Screenshots. Texts. Emails. Notes. I was done letting them rewrite the story. I collected every receipt, literal and emotional. The rent. The bills. The times they lied. The times they used my name on applications without asking. Even the time I accidentally found out my mom had used my credit score to sign up for a store card. When I asked her why, she just waved it off. It's not a big deal. You weren't using it. And when I told her what she did was illegal, she snapped. Don't threaten me, Mr. IT man. You'd be nothing without this family. A week later, I heard Emily had been telling people I was on the spectrum. Which I'm not. But it made me easier to explain, she said. Apparently, it gave her an excuse for why I wasn't as normal as her friends. And still, I said nothing. I kept working. I kept paying. I kept smiling. But inside, I was building something. Quietly. Carefully. And they didn't see it coming. Because when you build in silence, your explosion feels like an earthquake to the people who thought you were asleep. It all came to a head on my birthday. Again. 2 weeks after that group chat roast. After the mountain cabin trip they never told me about. After they forgot the rent, again. That's when they had the nerve to reach out. Emily texted first, hey, Mom says come by tonight. Family dinner. I left it on read. 10 minutes later, my dad called. His voice was tired, like he was doing me a favor. Don't make this harder than it has to be. We're trying to move forward. That was their favorite line, moving forward. Translation. Let's all pretend nothing happened and you just keep paying for things. This time, I said yes. But I didn't show up alone. I walked into their house, the same one I helped repaint, the one with the fridge I bought, with a duffel bag over my shoulder and a backup hard drive in my jacket pocket. Mom greeted me like everything was fine. Gave me a hug like we were close. Dad handed me a beer like that fixed anything. Emily smirked like she was already in control of the narrative. I sat down and let them talk. About healing. About forgiveness. About how I had lashed out by canceling the rent and the credit cards. Then Mom dropped the line that cracked it all open. You're still part of this family. But you've made mistakes, too. I took a breath. Reached into my bag. Pulled out my laptop. Set it down on the table. Clicked open a folder I'd labeled truth. Dad raised an eyebrow. What's this, homework? I didn't respond. I just clicked play. First up. A voicemail from last year. My mom's voice. First clip played, mom's voice, full volume, crackling with rage. Screaming at me to grow up. To pay Emily's tuition before she ends up like me. Second clip, Emily. On speaker. Laughing with someone. He's always been weird. Just let him pay for stuff. It makes him feel useful. Then came the folder. I showed them everything. Screenshots of credit transfers. Bills. Payment requests. Group chats. Emily's Instagram stories, bragging about spending my money like it was hers. I flipped the screen around and let them look. They leaned in. Then they stopped moving. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, grabbed a USB stick, and plugged it into the smart TV. The screen went black for a second. Then it lit up with a loan application. Dad's name, primary borrower. My name, cosigner. Except there was just one problem. I never signed anything. I looked straight at him. Calm. You used my social without telling me. You put me on the hook for your debt. He opened his mouth to speak. I raised a hand. It's already been reported. They froze your account. You'll get the fraud letter next week. Mom gasped. Emily. She laughed. Of course she did. Wow. You're so dramatic, she said, rolling her eyes. What's next? You gonna sue us? I smiled. Not a sarcastic smile. Just, tired. No. But he is. That's when the doorbell rang. I walked over, opened it, and let in Harry, Emily's ex. The guy she tried to bury. The one she told everyone had assaulted her. The one she nearly destroyed. He walked in with a black folder tucked under his arm. Sat down across from Emily. You want to tell them, he said, or should I? Emily went pale. Why are you here, she hissed. He opened the folder. No hesitation. Inside, printed screenshots. Fake messages she'd written, pretending to be him. A photo of her handwritten notes, planning how to emotionally wear him down before the breakup. A transcript of her voice memos, edited to sound like he'd been screaming at her. Mom started crying. Dad just stared at the wall. Emily stood up, hands shaking. You two are insane. This is harassment. Harry didn't flinch. You're not the victim, Emily. You're the villain. And I'm done pretending otherwise. Then he walked out. I followed him to the door, then turned back one last time. And I said it. The final line I'd ever speak in that house. You wanted me to play the role. Be the good son. The quiet wallet. But now, I'm the one writing the script. Then I grabbed my laptop. My backup drive. And I walked out. Behind me, all hell broke loose. Mom screaming Emily's name. Dad yelling for me to come back and fix this. Emily throwing something, I think it was a glass. I didn't turn around to check. Because when you finally light the fuse and the truth explodes, you don't go back to watch the ashes fall. The next morning, I uploaded everything. Not just the screenshots. Not just the voice clips. Everything. A single post, titled, When Your Family Treats You Like an ATM with a Heartbeat. Inside the link, every bank transfer. The illegal loan. Emily's fake messages, the edited audio, her breakup playbook. Mom's voicemail telling me to man up and pay tuition. Dad's Thanksgiving joke, about how I couldn't keep a girlfriend but I sure could keep the lights on. I didn't write some sob story. I didn't ask for pity. I just wrote facts. I laid out receipts. And at the very end, one line. I'm not angry. I'm not sad. I'm just done pretending this is what family looks like. Then I hit post. And I turned off my phone. By noon, the thing had legs. Not global viral. But big. Big enough to burn. Thousands of shares. Hundreds of comments. Some from total strangers. Dude. This is exactly what I went through. My brother did the same thing. You're not alone. This level of evidence is insane. Go off, King. Others from people I actually knew. One guy I hadn't seen since high school posted. I always knew something was off about your sister. This confirms it. I didn't reply. I let the post breathe. By 3 p.m., my Neil, the one who'd heart-reacted to Mom's birthday insult, posted her little Facebook status. Air your laundry in private. Family doesn't belong on the internet. No likes. Then Emily popped up. A black square on Instagram. Caption. Betrayal hits hardest from the ones you used to feed. I almost laughed. But then Dad went live on Facebook. Yes. Live. He sat in his garage, the same garage I helped him fix when the roof was leaking, phone shaking in his hand. And into the camera, he said, "My son's been manipulated. He's mentally fragile." Dad went live. On Facebook. He sat in his garage, the same one I'd helped him fix when the roof started leaking. His voice was shaky as he stared into the camera. "My son's been manipulated. He's mentally fragile," he said, looking straight into the lens. "He's been lied to by people who don't care about this family." I stood in the hallway, watching the live stream from my phone. I wasn't surprised. Not at all. It was classic him. Classic them. Always trying to flip the script. Always playing the victim when the truth comes out. I waited for a few more minutes, watching him stammer through his sob story. People in the comments were already starting to talk. Someone wrote, "So, the son is the problem now? That's rich." Another, "Your son was manipulated." Nah, sounds like you all did the manipulating. By the time he finished, the damage was done. I didn't need to respond. The world was already turning on its own. The truth was out. Later, my phone buzzed with notifications. A message from my cousin, Lily. "I saw what you did. You're a brave man. But don't let them twist this around. You know what they're capable of." Then came one from an old friend from college. "I'm sorry you had to go through that. My family's a mess too, but that's next level toxic. Proud of you for standing up." The support felt good. For the first time in years, it felt like I wasn't alone. And even though the people closest to me, my family, were trying to tear me apart, I knew I had done the right thing. At that point, I was just waiting for them to show their true colors, to do what they always did, deny, deflect, and lie. Emily and Dad started sending me texts, but I didn't answer. No more conversations. No more pretending. Later that night, I checked the comments again. Some people from high school had chimed in. One of them wrote, "I always knew something was off about your sister. This post confirms everything." I didn't respond to any of it. It wasn't for me anymore. It was for them to own it, everything they'd done, everything they thought they could get away with. The next morning, I checked in on the post. The shares were still climbing. The messages were still pouring in. It wasn't about vindication anymore. It wasn't about revenge. It was about shedding light on the truth. And as the shares piled up, it felt like the world was finally listening. By now, my family was reeling. My Neil posted a vague status about airing laundry in private. Of course, no likes. No one agreed with her. Emily posted her usual victim stuff, a black square on Instagram, captioned, "Betrayal hits hardest from the people you once fed." I nearly rolled my eyes. But I didn't respond. Then, of course, Dad did his live stream. In that garage. With that shaky voice. That same sad act. Trying to play the victim, talking about how I was mentally fragile. As if they didn't spend years building this fragile version of me. I didn't need to say anything more. The truth was already out. The world could see it. And honestly, at that point, I didn't care anymore what they thought. I remember standing in the middle of my new living room the first night. Barefoot on cold tile, holding a mug of coffee I'd made in my new kitchen. And then it hit me, no one was going to yell at me. No one was going to shame me for not doing enough. No one was going to ask for money. Or rides. Or, just a little help this month. There were no group chats, no fake birthdays, no memes about me being shared behind my back. Just silence. Beautiful, earned silence. I started working full-time for myself, something that had been a side project for years. Quiet, careful, hidden. But after everything blew up, my business became a beacon. Understood Consulting. The name came from the only word I sent my mom on my birthday. I built the website in one night, designed the logo myself. I secured the domain and registered the trademark. It wasn't about making a statement. It was about never again asking for permission to exist. Now, I help others walk out of the same cage I grew up in. I speak, I coach, I listen. But I stay private. Because my life isn't some reality show for my family to watch and twist. It's not a redemption arc they get to hijack. It's a fortress, locked up tight, with motion sensors. And I sleep better than I ever have. 3 weeks after I moved, I got a manila envelope in my P.O. box. Inside was a handwritten letter from Mom. Slanted cursive on floral stationery, written in red ink. It said, "You used to be our sweet boy. I don't know who this bitter man is. We made mistakes, but airing them like that? You humiliated us. You ruined us. Maybe one day you'll realize how hard it was for us. Maybe one day you'll grow up. It ended with, I'm praying for you. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just wrote 3 words on the back with a Sharpie, keep your prayers. And tossed it in the trash. 2 days later, Dad emailed me. The subject line was, idea. He suggested we go on Dr. Matt, where we each tell our side, make peace, and maybe get a little publicity. He even attached a childhood photo of me, crying at Chuck E. Cheese while he held a beer and smiled at the camera. I stared at it for a while. And then I saved it. Not as a keepsake, but as a reminder. They don't want peace. They want a platform. That night, I released a new video on my channel. No background music. Just me. They keep asking if I'll make peace. If I'll come back. If I'll forgive. But peace doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending your abuser had a hard childhood. It doesn't mean sitting at the same table that once fed you shame. Peace means absence. Absence of chaos. Absence of noise. Absence of their names. I'm not your son anymore. I'm the consequence. That video got 2 million views in a week. One day, I was walking out of the office and saw a couple staring at the logo on the door. The woman looked at me and asked, "Are you him? From the story?" I nodded slowly, and she just said, "Thank you. I didn't think people like you existed." That moment meant more than all the birthdays I ever begged them to remember. Because I didn't need them to clap for me anymore. The world was full of people who'd been lied to by people who loved them. And now I was proof they could survive it. I haven't spoken to my family in over a year now. I don't plan to. They still post. Still hint. Still rewrite their version of things. I let them. Because you don't argue with ghosts. You stop niling yourself with their stories. And sometimes, late at night, I walk past the mirror in my hallway and catch a glimpse of myself, older, still, but not bitter. Just unchained. Because I didn't escape a toxic family. I outgrew it. And there's no coming back from that. The shop plaque still hangs in my office, the steel plate with a brushed finish, 4 perfect screws. We don't rebuild what broke you. We build what frees you. Underneath it now. A second, smaller sign I had custom made last week. Guess who's not turning 12 again? Every time I see it, I smile. Because this year, the party's mine. And no one uninvited gets in.